Hi and welcome to Growthify Literature. We are here with another topic on Plato, which is mimesis. So today we are going to discuss about mimesis. In the previous video, we discussed about Plato and the reason of Plato's hostility towards art. So we discussed about the art as imitation of an imitation, that is theory of forms of Plato, and how he considered art as deceptive and art as a threat to the soul. Now we are going to discuss about mimesis. What is mimesis and what was Plato's attitude towards mimesis? Plato's attitude towards mimesis, the concept of imitation. So, here we get to know about mimesis. Mimesis is the concept of imitation. We studied earlier that in theory of forms. What was theory of forms? Theory of forms was that art is an imitation of an imitation. So, the concept of imitation is itself known as mimesis. It forms a foundational part of his aesthetic and philosophical thought. So, जो imitation है, जो copy करना है, the concept of copying things from physical world to art is a form of foundational part of Plato's aesthetic and philosophical thought. Now, for Plato, mimesis is not a harmless or even neutral activity. Rather, it is deeply problematic both epistemologically and morally. So Plato considered that copying things from physical world to to an art, is problematic as well as harmful. And he had a negative assessment towards mimesis. So, especially his theory of forms, his tripartite model of soul, and his vision of the ideal state. So, we'll understand this. Mimesis and the theory of forms. Theory of forms था कि physical world से copy किया हुआ art. And mimesis is itself the concept of copying, the concept of imitating anything. Plato's metaphysical framework asserts that reality consists of two levels: world of forms, unchanging, perfect, and eternal reality, and the sensible world, which is flawed, transient, reflection of those forms. So, according to Plato, वर्ल्ड ऑफ फॉर्म्स दो ही तरह के होते हैं, रियलिटी दो ही तरह की होती है. फर्स्ट इज वर्ल्ड ऑफ फॉर्म्स and second is sensible or physical world. World of forms is that we have understood this concept earlier in the earlier video. uh, for example, if we take an example of chair, there is a chair, and we think, हम सोचते हैं कि चेयर का एक फॉर्म होगा, एक आइडियल फॉर्म जो हम अपने दिमाग में सोचते हैं, और चेयर ऐसे ही होगा. एंड देन वी ट्राई टू कंस्ट्रक्ट अ फिजिकल चेयर in real world. So that is the copy of form, copy of something we thought as perfect into something which may be flawed, or which may have a transient reflection of those forms, of those of something which we thought. It is a transient reflection. The physical chair is the reflection of our thought. हम जो सोचे कि ऐसा चेयर बनेगा, वो एक आइडल फॉर्म था जो हमारे दिमाग में था, एंड देन क्रिएटिंग कंस्ट्रक्टिंग दैट चेयर फिजिकली इज रिफ्लेक्शन ऑफ आवर थॉट. हमारा वो सोच का रिफ्लेक्शन है. So, according to Plato, these are the only two realities that exist. And the the art, according to him, the art, imitating the physical chair into an art, that is painting of a chair, which is copy of a copy, is twice removed from the truth. According to Plato, it is twice removed from the truth. because he, according to him, the ultimate truth is that world of forms, which is unchanging, which is perfect. जो हम सोच रहे हैं वो फ्लॉड नहीं है, वो परफेक्ट चीज है, परफेक्ट सोच है चेयर का. बट देन वी कॉपी दैट सोच into a physical chair, which may be flawed, which is a reflection of our soch. But then, when a painter paints that chair, it becomes a copy of a copy, which means that the physical chair is a copy of our soch, and the painting is the copy of the physical chair. It becomes twice removed from the real, uh, real world of forms, which is again our soch, our thinking, something which is perfect according to us. So, this art is twice removed from the truth. From this perspective, mimesis in art, that is, copying or imitation in art, is deceptive. That is deceptive, and it does not bring us closer to knowledge or truth, but instead further removes us from it. This is Plato's belief that imitation of art or mimesis in art is deceptive, and it does not bring us closer to knowledge, but it removes us from knowledge. How, for example, हम एग्जाम्पल से समझते हैं कि there is a war going on and someone wrote about that war. जो भी वॉर के बारे में लिखा गया है, इट कैन stir up emotions in the reader's mind, but it cannot, the readers cannot experience the truth of war. They will not be able to understand the ethics of war. It can only be understood by those present in the war. Understood? So it is deceptive. Art, copying, imitation of physical world is considered as deceptive according to Plato. The second point is mimesis. So, did you understand the concept of mimesis? The concept mimesis itself is means imitation, copying. Now, second point of Plato's attitude towards mimesis is mimesis and the soul. Plato's psychological model, especially in the Republic, divides the soul into three parts: rational, spirited, and the appetitive. A just soul, that is, rational soul, is one which gives reason, governs the other elements. However, Plato sees mimesis, particularly in tragic poetry and theatre, as appealing to the irrational parts of the soul, stirring up emotions like pity, fear, and or lust. Rather than cultivating reason or virtue, mimetic art encourages people to indulge in their base impulses. For instance, let us see an example. In tragic plays, the audience may sympathize with morally ambiguous characters or experience catharsis through sorrow or fear. Plato saw this as dangerous, especially for young impressionable, as it could erode moral discipline and encourage irrationality. Which means again, copying or imitation can be deceptive, and he divides soul into three parts. Plato divides soul into three parts: rational, one which is governed by logic and reason; spirited, and appetitive. Now, a just soul, a rational soul, governs the everything with reason. But then, when there is mimesis, when there is copying of something which has which is kind of twice removed from the truth. It is not the truth. It is twice removed from the truth. Can be deceptive and can be harmful for the readers or for anyone who is watching theater who is reading something which has been copied or which has been imitated from the real world. How? Then it can stir up emotions like pity, fear, and lust, but it will uh, not cultivate a reason or virtue in the mind of reader. So, any horror film, or maybe let's say any film which shows war, can can bring up the emotions among the viewers, the emotions such as pity, fear, but it will not cultivate a reason or virtue. और जैसे कि एक कोई भी मूवी है जिसमें वॉर सीन्स दिखाया जा रहा है, देन व्यूअर्स को क्या पिटी, फियर, ये सारे इमोशंस वो लोग एक्सपीरियंस करेंगे, बट दे विल नॉट बी एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट actually happens in a warfare, or how to actually react in those situations, because again it is a copy of a physical world, and it is too flawed. It is twice removed from the truth. Therefore, it is not only dangerous, but it is also harmful for the reader's mind or for the viewer's mind. It does not give them virtue of reason to understand the actual things happening in the war, or how to react on those situations. In those situations, it only gives it only stirs up the emotions. It only uh, just stirs the emotions. वो बस emotions experience करवाता है viewers को या readers को कि ऐसा experience हो रहा है, but they cannot logically understand the situation. So this is what Plato is saying, that the soul, for the soul, imitation is dangerous. Mimesis and the ideal state. Given these concerns, Plato concludes that mimesis poses a threat to the harmony and justice of the ideal republic. Art that depicts immoral behavior, glorifies vice, or misrepresents the god undermines the civic education necessary for forming virtuous citizens. Therefore, ultimately, finally, Plato क्या बोलता है? Plato says that mimesis or copying or imitation is a threat to the harmony and justice of ideal republic. And he also, in his work, The Republic, famously advocates for the exile of poets unless they can prove that their work contributes to the cultivation of virtue and knowledge. Plato does acknowledge the emotional power and beauty of art. However, he maintains that its seductive qualities must be subordinated to truth and reason. So Plato acknowledge करता है emotional power को और beauty of art को, but he also says that with the emotional power and beauty, an art should also have the qualities which must be subordinated to truth and reason. Art should also show its viewers or its readers truth and reason. Only art that aligns with the philosophical truth and supports moral education can be permitted in the ideal state. So, this was the attitude that Plato had for mimesis, towards mimesis. So, did you understand what is mimesis? Mimesis is the concept of imitation, which is related to theory of forms, soul, and finally the ideal state. In the next topic, we are going to start with the Aristotle's view of mimesis. What Aristotle thought about mimesis, how was Aristotle's attitude towards mimesis. We understood about Plato's concept of mimesis and attitude towards mimesis, and Plato's hostility towards art, especially drama and poetry. If you have not seen my previous video, go see my previous video. You can actually understand it, the Plato's concept in a better way. Also, I can provide you with the PDFs if you want these PDFs. These are my own notes. I have made it myself when I was in masters, and when I was preparing for net UGC JRF. These are very important concepts that you need to have, uh, to be very clear with it. So if you want these notes, I can provide you with these notes. You just comment below for the notes, and I will provide you.